Sorry, Gracie. I found the bit that I thought I was.
Awesome.
You're
Do you have a
live.
timing for that yet? Hello. Welcome to Chainmail MonkeySpace. The insanity has begun. We don't film the first part of it because it's a little bit too insane for public consumption. But we turn up here once a month and make chainmail and do insane things and bring all of the samples so that people can see what we're working on. What I'm making at the moment is one of our new chainmail mantles. I started making blanket squares for weighted blankets a little while ago, and as I took them to markets and things, I noticed that people seemed to immediately put them around their necks. So after a little while in conversations with people, I had some requests for actual blankets that were set up. So I've based these on an armor design for a bishop's mantle, which is a piece of chainmail that goes around your neck and protects you from being stabbed in your chestal regions. It's basically, I've got two different weights of them. So this one uses half Persian 4-in-1 as the neckline. Owen, can you see if that actually shows in the stream? Cool. That's the half Persian 4-in-1. That's European 4-in-1. And then it's expanded as it goes through, so it makes a nice half circle. And yeah, they've proved pretty popular. So we will just be making stuff and chatting about random things. And if you want to chime in, ask us what we're doing, ask to see anything in particular, then please feel free. I've got Owen monitoring the stream because I can't actually see it right now because we're still working on getting a camera set up. So I'm on one side of the laptop and the typing is on the other side. And the screen is on the other side, which is probably good because it means I can't see what it looked like.
You look pretty.
No. We're keeping it away from my face so nobody goes blind, but it's not the interesting parts of me anyway. So yeah, have fun listening to our nattering. Feel free to ask any questions you like. And yeah, welcome to MonkeySpace. Come along in person at some point. Stuff. If you're in Auckland or Tauranga. Otherwise, just keep turning up because we are going to keep streaming these babies. Because, speaking as the fact that we just drove up from Tauranga this morning, nobody should have to drive this far to make chainmail. Did you get my message about Gidget?
Yes, I did.
I have someone that wants to know how much she is.
I don't know how much you would sell dragons for.
Our dragon, the one that we sold to Harpy, was about 200.
Okay.
But I think it was also about twice the length of Gidget.
Right.
So what I would suggest doing
I think
is...
we were looking at this morning about 150.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you add extra for, like, because the cogs are more expensive than the scales?
You factor in the materials costs when you're putting it in.
Yeah.
So, yep, I basically figure out how much it would be to replace everything that is in it. And that is your material cost.
Right.
But if you want, I can say 150 to 100 grams of my cogs. Sorry, which cogs you used. But I know about 100 grams of my cogs are $20.
Okay.
So if you went 170 or 180.
Yeah. That would factor that in.
We had a glitch there for a second.
Yeah? What happened?
Lost connection for a second and regained it.
Are we still going?
Yeah, it's still going back on. I
Can
put a few
you
notes.
still see me?
I put a few notes up saying, hello, welcome everyone. Hello everyone, welcome to Auckland MonkeySpace February 2020. Please feel free to send us a message and say hi. If you're in Auckland, come on down to Auckland City Commons on Manukau Road today. We're here till 4.
Can you get the link from the YouTube and stick it on the Steel web page and in MonkeySpace? Probably not. Technology, why are you so annoying?
Where do I steal the link from? I don't know where to get the link from.
I think if you go to the YouTube channel on your tablet, you should be able to share the link to the currently streaming video. That's how it works. I don't know.
Steel web?
Steel web, yeah. Yeah, but I have a friend that's very keen to buy Gidget. Okay.
It's like, no, my favorite thing. It's like, I know. Yeah, it's like, can I keep the prototype and make a second?
Possibly.
Yeah.
But in terms of time, how long would it take you to make another one?
I think, Gidget and stuff took a couple of hours, but with current work and engineering, it's a couple of hours I don't have.
Exactly.
So
It's one of those things where if they want to buy it now, let them buy the thing.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that you were kind of making and planning to keep for yourself. Either that or say, this is how much it would be. Gidget is not for sale, but I can do you another one. What colours would you like? And then it's more of a customised process.
Right. Yeah.
And they're aware of the fact that it's going to be a longer time period. It's just kind of communicating with them so that they know what they're in for and how long to wait. Yeah. I'll check it out. I finally gave in and did this thing. I know, right? So pretty. I will show you guys in a second, I promise. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's one of the turbines that we get from Steampunk Garage. We got a bunch of titanium ones in, and it's got pretty laser cut scales on it. And I've been wanting to make it for ages, and I finally got to make it. It's very exciting.
Yes,
But it looks cool. I don't know if it's going to be too tight. I think
that
it will.
is very tedious.
It's so
So
tight.
I would just go screw it and just do like the 18 gauge and just kind of throw a few more of
I'm
those.
either that or I'm going to add the last scale into it. I'll show you that. Oh, and
Okay.
can you see if that's in focus?
Back a little bit, please. Not really. It's not going to hold it up.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem is you're in focus.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am Iron Man.
We need to get the better protected cameras.
I can't share it to the Steelweb page because I'm not on the admin for that page.
Because it took you off admin for that page because reasons. Can you send the link to me and then I will share it?
I've shared it on the Chainmail MonkeySpace group.
Can you send me the link to the thing so I can share it on there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was just wondering you could steal it from there and send it through.
Just talking to people that might be randomly looking into streaming. I don't know how many of you have tried making European 4-in-1 yet. There are a couple of different ways that you can do it. This one is good for large projects. We tend to refer to it as making 5s. So you make one unit of 4-in-1. So 4 rings going through one ring. And then you link a bunch of them together. And it can be a good way when you're working on a larger project to make a whole bunch of stuff without having to pay too much attention to it, that you then make into a larger piece when you can focus enough on actually putting it all together. So 2 5s become the beginning of a chain. And that one's wrong. It's turning into Grace Lock rather than anything else.
I sent it to you on Messenger and I sent it to a bunch of other people. Oh, yes.
We have people?
We are.
Hello.
I don't know.
You don't know? We might have people?
Let's see. If you're there, say hi.
If you're there but you don't want us to know that you're there, sit there and giggle.
Oh, Susie.
Giggle maniacally.
It's Susie. Susie
Hey
Butler.
Susie, how you doing? Susie's from Australia.
Oh, hello.
She's been buying the Zilly Ball kits like crazy.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
NAS Project says hi, as in HIGH.
Hi.
Susie Butler's hi, yeah.
Hello, everybody's.
Do the intro again. We've got people here.
Yeah, can't remember what I said now.
Say a
Nobody
new one.
told me I would have to make sense. Hi guys, welcome to MonkeySpace. We get together twice a month now, once in Tauranga and once in Auckland, and make stuff and talk about stuff that we have made and generally are stupid and insane and do funny little dances and eat chocolate.
Susie Butler says, do we have a head attached to the body? And NAS Project says, nobody told me what high.
Nobody told me what high.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it how high? Yeah, basically we're making chainmail. Yay, chainmail. I've been making chainmail now for about 12 years. Owen's been making chainmail probably for longer, but less intensively. I'm slightly more obsessive than most people I know about chainmail.
Just a tad.
How long have you been making chainmail for, Ruth?
About at least 5 years.
Right. I can't remember the first time that I met you, but the first time we did stuff seriously, you came down to Tauranga for the medieval thing.
Yes.
And she helped me run the stall. So Grace and Eden are my little monkey minions up in Auckland doing their chainmail insanity and helping me run events up here and helping me make stock for other events.
NES projects is nice.
So this is one thing that I've just finished. It didn't take me long because I was adding things together. Sorry, what's down?
That's it. Yep.
I'm getting gestured at by Owen. Ooh, shiny chainmail. Basically, I started making squares for weighted blankets a while ago, partly because a friend of mine has been bugging me for, it was about 5 years at the time, to make her a chainmail blanket, which at normal ring sizes would mean she owed me her house by the time it was finished. Owen, can you check me the blanket square? And then I found these rings from some friends of mine that were trying to get rid of them and started making lap quilt squares. So one of these comes to, I think it's about 280. So you can buy it, use it, and if you want a larger blanket, you pay off the next one, and then when you finish paying it off, I turn up and seam them together, and yay, you have a larger blanket. So if you wanted to end up with a queen-size chainmail blanket, you could, but in the meantime of being able to afford the ridiculous amounts of chainmail that would involve, you still had something that you could use. And the lap quilts themselves have been really popular and really useful for a lot of people we know. My nephew's got ADHD. We never actually managed to try it on him because the last time he came over, I hadn't found the rings yet. And they live in Colorado, so postage would be obnoxious to try and get it to him. But we've got a friend in Hamilton that uses hers all the time. And we started taking them to a lot of markets, and we found people were putting them on their shoulders, basically, because when you're standing up, you can't really lap quilt it. And how much of me is visible on? Am I showing?
And then 50 installments of $3.99.
Damn right, yeah.
From Mass Project.
50,000 installments. Yeah, but we're finding that the lap quilts are actually, they're kind of big enough. You don't need a bed-sized one. And the other issue with having a bed-sized one is this is, I think, about 4 kilo. I know I weighed it at one point, but I don't have it written in front of me how heavy it is. So we were concerned about potentially it being too heavy to lift by the time it got to being bed-sized.
NAS Project, you too can cover everything in chainmail.
Chainmail all the things.
Yes, you two should cover everything in chainmail because everything should be chainmail, and that's not, I may have gone to see a glass-blowing friend of mine in Hamilton, and when she asked me what I wanted her to make out of glass, my response was, well, I know what my first answer to that will be, but that's not possible, so give me a second, I'll think of something else. And then she started trying to make glass chainmail because she's awesome. It's Amakura glass, is that it on?
Yeah,
Amakura glass.
Something like that.
At the bottom of the luge, and her...
And Rotorua.
Yeah, and her premises is shaped a little bit like a snail. She does demos and everything. If you're driving through there, check her out. She's freaking awesome. But we started making these, which are basically European 4-in-1. Attached to that neckline is half Persian 4-in-1.
Down.
Sorry. Better?
Yep.
Yep. Now you can.
I can just adjust the camera so people can actually see your face.
Yeah, then the camera's going to break. Yeah, that's half Persian 4-in-1. But the good thing about this, or the other good thing about this, is the fact that I can now do different weights. Because we've had some people try these on and go, oh God, no, it's too heavy for me. Which wasn't a thing, or I didn't realize was a thing at the time. But people like different weighted blankets. So now I can use half Persian 4-in-1 for one that's a heavier version, ends up being about 2.2 kilo, I think. And half Persian 3-in-1 for one, which ends up being like 1 point something. So you have the option, basically. So yeah, that is the shiny thing. The other shiny thing that you may not have seen before is that. Is that in focus on?
Yeah, it's not bad.
I really, really want to move it closer so you can see the detail, but my camera's kind of crap. But each of the scales has a...
okay. Sorry, just a quick thing.
Yep.
Would love to see it wrapped around a lampshade, door divider, etc. for the...
Yeah.
That's from Susie.
Door divider. Oh my God. Yeah, I actually have some lampshade plans. I'm doing a home and garden show in April. So once Explore is on this weekend, it's a 4-day festival in a national park just outside of Auckland. Not this weekend, next weekend. And it's going to be insane. And I've been making lots of stuff for it, which I will show you in a second. But after that, I have lampshade designs that I've half started and I really need to finish. But cool. A door divider would be so freaking cool in that. Mm-hmm. Except when you kicked it, that would be painful.
Well, if you kick a door, it hurts as well. So.
Yes, but to logic.
Okay.
Question?
NAS project is face reveal at 1 million subscribers.
Yes. I may have promised to do a stupid dance at, I think we got to 600 subscribers, and I said when we wanted to do 700, I'd actually do a stupid dance. But
there may be little sneak previews of little heavy dances.
I was gonna say now that we're streaming, I'm gonna have like a whole bunch of stupid dances. So I'm gonna have to get someone to choreograph me doing an actually stupid dance, because we do stupid dances all the time.
You cool? Choreograph?
Oh yeah, true. Grace is when she's not chainmailing, she is a Zumba instructor, so she has the mad dance skills. Woo! But speaking of Explore, I don't know if you guys will have seen these yet. These are treated carbon scales. I made them for a LARP. They've been sitting at Arkham City Comics now for 4 months, maybe longer, waiting for someone to come pick them up. So I'm stealing them back, and I'm going to sell them at Explore. And if they want more of them, they can wait until I finish them, because I think the event they were made for is over now anyway. But they're very, very pretty patterns, and I really want to get a camera that can actually focus on the patterns, because at the moment they're just really blurry.
Doing that, they're definitely not going to, but hold it up closer so it takes up most of the screen.
Is it actually going to focus on it?
Back a little bit. Down.
I was just planning on taking a photo of it and posting it on Instagram.
Yeah, something coming through.
That's okay.
We have Dragon Square. No, Dragon Square.
Hello, Dragon Square.
No, NAS Project sent Dragon Square.
NAS Project sent Dragon Square?
Says.
Oh.
I think he's talking about the fact that it's scale.
Yes. Dragon scale. And I'll post a photo of the turbine as well.
We also do workshops on how to make that stuff.
Yes. We do workshops on how to make a bunch of stuff. We haven't got any set up this weekend because there's been way too many things on since January. All of the things. And we just finished moving house. Christmas Eve was our final day at the old house. So we're still trying to find most of the things in our house. Oh, Smeg. Sorry. You probably don't know this because I don't talk about it to many people. But when I get tired, I tend to vibrate, which is why I do not always post photos of what I'm working on. The camera bloody moves too much. Grace, can I get you to take a photo of that and the turbine and stick them up on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people, their hands shake when they get tired. My whole body shakes when I'm not tired, or when I wake up, which makes taking photos and holding cameras and shooting videos kind of annoying. But it does mean that when you're wearing a skirt and you're vibrating, the whole skirt kind of shimmers. So this is one of the things that I've got just for Explore. You can't see the detail, but that doesn't matter.
Oh. Slow.
They're holographic scales. They're plastic, so they're kind of weird.
You activate hyperdrive.
What?
From NAS Project. You activate hyperdrive.
I activate hyperdrive?
I
do.
don't know who that is.
That is vibration.
Shiny.
Shiny.
From the same person.
So one of the things that I'm going to be doing with these is making headpieces. I'm just trying to make them big enough. I also have goldy greeny ones, which I haven't had time to make stuff out of yet. Okay. Thank you. We'll check them. I'll check these up on Instagram. Instagram.
It's just funny being on a green tabletop. It looks like it's on a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yeah, you can clear cut it, stick it on whatever you want. Yes.
People's faces.
Stick it on people's faces?
Mm-hmm.
Scale face. Ooh. On.
Mm-hmm.
On.
Okay, you need to put your head down.
I'm showing it to you.
I know, so people are going to start asking about it.
I'm wondering about face mask.
Yes, looks good.
I am wondering
Face
about
mask
wedding
with
bear.
scale. Oh my god, yes! Yes. Okay. Both Eden and Grace have decided to get engaged in the last...
Not to each other.
Not to each other.
Just to be clear.
Though having said that, that would be the most epically chainmail-y.
Oh yeah, that would be.
So, Susie, they're going to be using Zilly Balls in some way in their bridal parties.
Mostly bouquets, yeah.
If we can get the rings from the lovely Michael, who has a few too many things on his plate at the moment. But we are going to be using the chainmails for the bridal stuff and then posting lots of photos as well.
Susie Butler, yeah.
Yes.
Wait. And we have a burger from an ass project.
Oh my god, burgers.
Yeah, it's cool.
Damn it, stop making me hungry. I don't know if any of you guys have actually tried making turbines, but they are one of the most frustrating things that I've ever worked on in my life. Because they're very, very tight. And if you don't have the right amount of things in them, then they don't work. And when I first got the kits, they didn't have any of the standard sized kits, so they sent me extra large kits. So I was trying to do them with too few scales. And yeah, it's been fun trying to get the bloody things to work. But they're endlessly awesome once they're finished. So they're extremely satisfying, even though they're frustrating. They're slightly more satisfying because they're frustrating, I think.
Yeah, it's in the end, it's worth all the blood sacrifices for the chainmail gods.
Yes.
And the creative
gods.
curse words.
Yes.
Which is, the natural order and
The natural order of chainmail, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I had to answer whether or not this was kid friendly. And I was like, yeah. In some ways, yes. In swear words, no.
No,
Probably not.
which is why you get creative. So
Yes. Oh my god. I'm totally imagining you with a scale veil now. I'm a bit awesome.
Blood for the blood gods from
Blood
Ass
for the
Project.
blood gods.
yes.
Yeah. I think we need to start encouraging people to post photos of the worst wound they've given themselves with their pliers.
That's moderately frightening, but
Well, yeah. Have you not stabbed yourself with your pliers that badly yet?
not
really?
so bad. Like I have drawn blood and like I've had pliers slips and cutting, nicking my thumb or anything.
That's kind of what I mean.
I've nearly stabbed myself in the chest, and that was doing one of the scale mail turbines.
Yeah,
you're trying
because
to-
you just...
Yeah.
I've done that one a lot.
Yeah, so it's almost like one should be wearing armor to make chainmail. You must wear chainmail to make chainmail.
Oh my god, second use for the mantles, because it's exactly the bit that they cover.
It's all in the
Those
way
are my
you poke
worst
your tongue
ones.
out from Susie.
Those are my worst ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, these ones are really bad,
Down.
because I don't know if you can tell, but they're pointy.
Oh yeah.
So they are very much like stabbing yourselves. And Owen's chisel-nosed ones are vicious, because they are super pointy. So one of the reasons that I have not tried to
Yeah, I've got two of those.
I've not tried to work with these ones is because they're very, very pointy.
Okay.
And knowing myself, I will draw blood quite badly.
Susie's saying it's all in the way you poke your tongue out.
Yes.
Oh,
it is.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And Nas Project says, what if they hurt themselves so badly they can't take a photo?
We
Then
will
you get
find
the
a way.
ER nurses to do it for you.
Or the mortician, whichever
Yes.
you prefer.
That works too.
Get it done in the autopsy, it'd be great.
And then you're doing that one, and I've been thinking of doing the weirdest place you ever found a chainmail ring.
Yes.
Yes. Because, God, I have some fun ones of those. Some
Yeah.
of them are up on my Instagram feed,
Yeah. I still think
because I've been sharing them.
Yeah.
But the Terry's Chocolate Orange is still one of my favorites.
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
I opened a Terry's Chocolate Orange. I had a slice. I closed it up again. And then the next time I went back in for a slice on the same day, I found a ring that I had not been working on at the time in the middle of the chocolate orange.
Photo mid cremation.
Yes.
Nas Project.
Now I'm wondering how many rings would fall out at the end. That's probably slightly too morbid.
Never.
Yeah, Owen decided to take a slice off of himself with a bacon slicer this year, about 5 hours before an event, and we disturbed the ER nurses slightly by taking photos. Because we wanted to track the progress and the healing and remember what it was like and stuff. And
The before and afters.
totally. And he did end up growing it back, so, you know.
It didn't grow back, it just didn't die. It reattached.
Yes. It did not then fall off, despite the fact that they were very confident that it would.
It's all up to Tauranga Hospital's amazing work and care,
Yes.
and the accident care afterwards.
Yeah, they were pretty epic.
But he's not bacon.
He's not, but at the same time, he also wasn't cutting bacon, which very much frustrated the vegetarians at the market. Vegetarians or vegans?
Vegetarians.
He mentioned to them what he'd done to himself the last time he went back to the next time he went back to the market after doing it, and they were like, "Oh, that's why you shouldn't eat meat." We then pissed them off by telling him he was slicing tomato at the time. They did not like that one.
Oh, it's so good.
Next
Oh.
project is madness. Says madness.
Yes. We have no shortage of insanity. All right. Do you guys want to see some chainmail weaves or something? Because we have the giant box of weaves here. Have you seen many different chainmail weaves? Do you want to see some of the more obscure ones? Do you want to see what you want to see?
Any questions, please feel free to say. And please introduce yourselves when you turn up.
Yes, if you want to. Okay, just to talk you through what I'm doing.
So basically, never eat tomato.
Yes, they're evil anyway. So,
Yep,
you know.
Hannah's family would definitely agree with that one.
My dad's not a fan of tomato. He trained himself when he was younger and at boarding school, and they made disgusting tomatoes to throw up every time he had to eat the school tomatoes. So he was at boarding school in England, and they boiled them until they were barely recognizable. Blech. So he trained himself to throw up every time he had to eat tomato, preferably on the teacher that was trying to make him eat tomatoes, so they'd never do it again. And then he left school, and he went on a date, and the girl made him tomatoes, and he went, "Oh, I wonder what these are going to taste like when they're not boiled to within an inch of his life," and he wanted to make a good impression, so he ate them, and he definitely made an impression. It wasn't necessarily a good one. He may have thrown up on her.
Oh no.
Yes, so when I was growing up, every time tomatoes turned up on the kitchen table and my father would make vomiting noises, it kind of screws up your opinion of the vegetable.
But I've been able to feed him tomatoes. No tomato,
Mhm.
not tomato.
No tomato. No. Never tomato. One of the annoying things about these is every time you try and make it work and it doesn't, it pulls the rings open slightly.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to go back through and fix it, you have to go through and fix both bloody rings. Ah, the many frustrations of chainmail. Any more questions coming up, Mel?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Except
So
for
this does actually tell you how many people are watching.
nice. How many have we got?
3.
Oh my god, there's people!
Naspro just said, not no tomato. No, not tomato. I said tomato. Honestly, those words sound nothing alike. Are you saying tomato?
Tomato.
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 Just put the phonetic pronunciation from the dictionary in it.
I'll just start calling potatoes instead. Really drive them nuts.
Like potato and potato.
Potato.
Or taters.
Okay. I took some photos up before of the scales. It's one of the mantle pieces I've been making for
Nothing confusing about that.
school.
Oh, yeah.
I took all the covers off them. They're so super shiny. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Hi, Corey.
Okay. Just wanted to understand. Nothing confusing about that.
Nothing confusing at all. That's the shiny version.
Ooh.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's super shiny.
That is very nice.
If you guys are wondering what the hell I'm talking about, there's a photo I put up on Instagram on the way up here of some acrylic scales we're getting off one of the monkeys in Tauranga. He works for an acrylic company doing CNC routing, and he's been making us scales with the offcuts, so when they have a piece that they're not really using for anything else, it's just going to get chucked. He's started cutting us some shield scales out of it.
Hannah, what is your Instagram listing?
Steelweb NZ. I will find it for you, and then you can read it to them or type it up or something.
Steel Web NZ, one word.
Yep. In a second, I will just make sure I'm actually relaying the correct information, because knowing my brain, that is not going to happen. Really want to make a bloody door stoppery thing. chainmail now.
Draft excluder.
Yes,
She says thanks, Susie.
same problema. I'm glad you found it. Yes, still web ends it.
Okay, I'll write that down.
We're working on sorting out my website. My website has been in dire need of a redesign for quite a long time. And my web developer guy is quite happy to set it up for me and kind of give me software to do it myself, but has not had the time to actually do it for me, and I have not really been able to figure out how to do what I need to with that software. The website's been really unreliable. The emails haven't been working. I'm pretty sure people have been, well, I've been getting feedback that people are sending the contact forms and they're not getting through. So I'm working on changing over to a different website.
Question.
Yep.
What's the heaviest thing you can make chainmail out of?
What am I making?
No, you can make it out of lead. You can make it out of.
You could make it out of lead. I don't know what it would do to the person wearing it. It would depend on what you wanted to use it for. If you're going purely on weight, we've got is a brass piece in there? Yeah, International Forum, one piece of brass.
Big, heavy, chunky.
The weight of it depends on the size of the wire. So these rings are quite heavy because they're steel. That's the one.
You can probably make it out of piece of uranium.
It's quite grunty. It's brass. So it's decidedly weightier than, say, the same piece in aluminium would be. But in terms of chainmail, it's more a matter of hardness of material. Like all of my DIY kits, I start in aluminium because it's the least obnoxious for your hands. So in terms of making something heavy, it would depend on what the final piece is going to be used for. So if it was a matter of wanting to make something as heavy as possible, I would use a very dense material and a very dense weave. Like some of the weaves, yeah.
Oh, that's cool looking and adds poison damage for the lead one.
Totally. Owen actually wants, my partner, wants to make an entire shirt out of that. Well, yes, but not everyone knows who Owen is.
Yeah, okay. We'll go
so I will clarify it and then stop giving me funny looks.
This is my resting.
But yeah, a whole shirt in that would be amazing.
You have resting lead look face.
Brass is heavier than steel?
I think it actually might be.
It may be.
No.
No. They're different weaves, so it's going to be different weights.
Different size rings too.
Yeah.
So,
I'm thinking when I've done the jeweler's brass for like Byzantine and stuff. Right, how? Anna?
That is Moorish Rose. It's an awesome weave. But those are steel rings. Those are brass rings.
Come on.
But because that's a smaller ring size, there's more rings in this one than there are in this one. And the densities of the two weaves are different. So I can't do a direct comparison as to which is heavier with these. One of the reasons I have
Brass.
so many weave samples. Yes.
I think they're lighter than a similar size ring in steel.
Okay. So I'd probably go for steel in terms of being the heaviest. And then I'd go for something very dense, depending on what you were trying to do with it. Like if you wanted to wear it, there's a certain point between heavy enough to be strong and so heavy that you can't move or breathe. So yeah, it depends on whether you're going defensive capabilities or shiny things, really.
Going for max squish.
It's just reminded me of the video I took the first time I made one of these where I sat there for a while just being like squishy, because you could squish them in and then squish them out again and then squish them in again and then squish them. Yeah.
I think different type of squish.
I think different. Maximum squishing off other people. Yes? Yes? No? Maybe?
But Sorry.
So we're currently set up right now at Arkham City Comics in Royal Oak in Auckland, which is an exceedingly dangerous shop without all the extra chainmail.
No
Jeremy's-
squish for them, is what you're saying.
Squish for them, so yes. Now my brain's trying to imagine doing a giant warhammer or
Out of structural chainmail.
out of like Japanese 8 maybe.
All squish for the squishy Scots.
Hey, why are you targeting Scottish people?
Why did you get Scottish people?
All squish for the squishy Scots?
Squishy gods.
Ah, yes. Okay.
That makes
That does make a lot more sense. I was like, I'm not aware of why the Scottish would be more squishy. I'd say they'd be less squishy and more angry when you tried to squish them.
You just imagine those squishy Scots.
It'd be entertaining. Not necessarily for, like,
Not necessarily entertaining for you if you're squishing, but
it'd be
entertaining if
entertaining
you're
for the people watching you trying to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the blood flow that followed.
Yes.
None of it would be theirs. Not
Exactly.
from any of the Scots that I've met.
Mm.
Yeah, most of the time, it's not necessarily pick up the big handles, it's not. Yeah.
Do you not have any of the stock left that you had at Armageddon? Because you had necklaces and stuff there that
Yeah,
you were...
I've got some bracelets and stuff. I just need to get some clasps, which I'll leave in running through
Okay,
the clasps and things.
cool. Because if you have the pieces but not the clasps or anything like that,
Yeah.
then cost for what you've got.
Yeah.
And let me know how much they would cost me and how many clasps they need.
Right.
Because I have clasp stock that is steelwork stock.
Yeah.
And as long as I keep track of how many I put on your pieces,
Yeah.
you can either pay me for them afterwards if they don't sell, or I'll fax them into my side if they do.
From NAS project, I mean, that is good logic for giving squish to the Scots. Maybe that would make them less enraged. Don't think so somehow.
No.
Uh-huh.
Having lived there for a while, no.
No.
Yeah.
Even if you stop the anger from coming out straight away, and I find this with most people as well as Scottish people, it just kind of festers, and then as soon as you take the heavy chainmail thing off them, it explodes at you. Slightly. Little bit.
Self-fulfilling squish.
Yes. Oh, I love that squishy.
3 years after release, or 5 years after, 3 years after.
No off-only squish.
So you don't take the thing off.
You don't
Right.
let the chainmail off, you only squish.
So the super weighted blanket.
Yes. You might need to chain it to something as well.
Like straight jacket.
Yes, I'm sure I'm making this.
Straights.
I'm like, oh,
Because everything should be chained.
Because everything should be chainmail.
Yes. I have actually been volunteered horses on multiple occasions to chainmail. One of them being a 17-handed Clydesdale. Not a Clydesdale who was 17 hands, not a Clydesdale that had 17 hands. Thank you.
I still know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know, I still want to see the 17-handed.
I didn't want you to get too excited.
The mini
Sorry,
arms.
disappointed you. But he's now down in Christchurch, so it would involve carrying the chainmail quite a long way.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I've been offered other horses just outside of Nganawa here, mostly based on them seeing me carrying one of the pics that I'd taken of him.
The new one is coming out. So.
So yeah, it's one of the plans at some point is to chainmail a horse.
And a pig.
No, the battle pig is supposed to be a secret. Damn it. Nobody else can steal the battle pig.
Only squish.
Only Squish. I don't know. I think someone's getting a little bit obsessive about the squishness.
Yeah, and then some people also play as well.
Too many containers of
So
chainmail.
there's options.
Is this
It's like 5 users. Every time
Only when you're trying to find stuff.
Containers, yes. Oh, them the best horses. Battle pig.
Battle pig. Yes. There can only be too many containers of chainmail if you can't find the stuff that you want, or the one container of things that you want.
Yes. What was the last one that you looked through?
Having more containers doesn't mean you have to limit yourself in chainmail.
No.
Just limit yourself in the containers.
Yes. And organize the containers better so you can always find
Idea
the thing.
stolen.
Who is that? I will find you and kill you.
Selling to the Canadians.
I'm actually considering setting it up. One of the things I've been wanting to do with the MonkeySpace is set up good projects. So if you want to come along and do chainmail, but you don't know what you want to make, there will be instructions at whichever place we're going to. There'll be rings there. There'll be tools that you can use. And there'll be kind of group projects, usually stuff that I have the idea for, but I don't have the time for necessarily. And then it's something that you can work on, and a bigger project you can kind of be part of without having to invest vast amounts of money and time and energy.
Canadian war bacon.
Oh my god, yes.
Actually, be quite interesting. Use chainmail as a new griddle pan for frying your bacon. Allows the fat to fall through.
Yeah, true. But then it doesn't have all the tasty fatness. Then it would go very...
No, but it still have the fat there.
You're wasting so much.
No, you just use it for your bread later on.
I have had multiple people ask me to make chainmail coverings for chickens while roasting them,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a thing, apparently. Yeah. Is that what they usually cover them with?
Is that so you can get like a chainmail pit and like
And it's
burn
even
off
heat.
the bird?
It'll
No,
be
it's
even
heating.
heat.
Yeah.
I just like get like grinding roasted chicken with that
Yeah,
chainmail.
griddle pain.
Yes.
It's like when you fall over in chainmail and get that lovely chainmail pet and bruising.
Yeah. We kind of love, we did a medieval market down in Levin, and I love the expression on parents' faces when their kids start talking about how incredible chainmail is, but and is it the stuff that they actually use in defense? And I'm like, yeah, but you know, they usually will wear something underneath it, otherwise you'll just end up with a hole in you with pretty bruising around it. Or bits of metal in it, and you can see them being like, oh god, why are you speaking like this to my child? And the children are just like, oh,
Dad,
yes.
squishy.
I may have just lost a ring on the case. That doesn't sound like me at all.
The ultimate ring eater.
Let's see if any of you force me to use the full size.
You weren't at the last MonkeySpace. Did I tell you about the plan that I had for the project for this one, for Auckland?
Is that the guarantee video?
Yeah. A friend of ours is a massive fan of Witcher and has been for bloody years, playing all kinds of games. So there's a specific specific version of armor that he wants to make. That he's asked me a couple of times about the chainmail piece for. So I'm considering setting it up as a MonkeySpace project. And then every time we come up here, we make bits of it and then document making it and all that kind of stuff. And then if someone wants to come along for one of them, then all of them, they'll still be able to see him kind of rocking around in it at Armageddon, because he's made multiple outfits. He's a prop maker and
That's right.
yeah, makes all sorts of cool stuff. I like the idea of encouraging people to take on bigger projects without
Being too daunted by them.
cost.
Yeah.
And actually even finish the bloody thing.
Yeah. So I think the biggest project I've done is probably the biggest project I've done for myself was a 6-in-1 European 6-in-1 sleeve.
Ah, yes.
Not the tool.
No, the sleeve was bigger.
Yeah, the sleeve was bigger and
Yeah.
denser and a lot more time consuming.
What gauge did you make?
16 gauge. 8 mil rings.
8 or 16, yeah, that would have taken a while.
Yeah. Took me.
That was your Bucky one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my Winter Soldier. Winter
Nice.
Soldier one.
I know a guy who was making a 6-in-1 chainmail shirt out of spring steel, edged in brass, for combat, and he was 6'4"
Mm-hmm.
and broader than I am, and he wanted down to his knees.
I'm sorry, I think my wrists just broke just listening to that.
Yeah, that's the issue with Geralt, because they want to do it out of steel.
Of course I do.
Yeah, they'd like it to be, partly functional, which is fair enough in terms of making your own costume, but when it comes to actually starting movies out on steel, it does kind of annihilate them.
At the time of my prediction, I did all right. Yeah, because the better part, so people in New Zealand, America, in the big email, you saw what the other stuff is. Wrestling, comic stuff.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I didn't see the punch much.
Whoa!
Please don't save yourself.
I didn't. I missed.
Please give me some warning so I can focus that bit of the camera on.
In case
But I'm trying to be down lower, so I'm in focus.
Yeah, what are the instructions say? Using some questionable technique.
Yes, questionable technique and sheer stubbornness.
Please try this at home.
Yes. Oh my god, it's so pretty. See, now you can go squish, and you squish it out, and then you go squish around the outside, and it squishes it in, and then you go squish around the inside, and it squishes it out, and then you go squish around the inside, and it squishes it in. Not what it's for, it's just fun. Ah, it's done, baby. Right.
Ah, very nice.
I just had the thought that I might talk about this while we're on. Pliers. I have multiple different sets. These are my big grunty bastards. I got them through Ringwood when they were still modding the Nipex pliers. They've now kind of designed and made their own. I'm planning a big order on these at some point soon. These are bloody good for large rings when you want to cover a whole bunch of it. Like trying to do a ring that sized. I think that was probably too high. Owen, how's that in terms of
That was pretty good.
Cool. Trying to cover a ring that sized in those pliers does not work, warps the rings, and will probably break your pliers, to be honest.
Yep.
So these are really good for armoring, for big chunky rings. Susie, they're fantastic for the larger rings for the zilly balls, because they cover a whole side of it, you get the least amount of warping, and you can just work them together and, not have to worry too much about warping them. These are my babies. I'm trying to get some of these in. At the moment, they only have one distributor. They're Swanscombe pliers. They were about $70 American each. It took me quite a long time to find them, and I'd already broken multiple pliers before I got to these ones. I'm trying to find a place to get them wholesale, but I think that they're going to be pretty difficult because they literally only have one distributor. And I've approached them about getting them to New Zealand, and the amount that I would have to buy, it's just not possible at the moment. But they are absolutely beautiful. They're really good for titanium, for steel, for little fiddly things in really strong metals. Because the previous ones that I've got were those ones, which are gorgeous. They're Tronex pliers. They're pointy. They make these ones now with the snub noses, which I'm still trying to get my hands on. But again, it's these pliers. I think they would have cost you wholesale. They cost you about $50 New Zealand. So it's a matter of buying in enough, and then when you make money off that one, buying in more, as opposed to the cheaper ones that I can get that are good for chainmailing, but also affordable at the moment, which these ones are potentially not. But I got a set of these, and I broke them working on aluminium because it was, I made 2 shirts out of these babies, and I snapped 2 hairs. Like literally one of the jaws snapped off.
Whoa, what gauge aluminium?
16 gauge aluminium. 6.4 mil rings. They were the best pliers that I got at that point, and these were like, one of the reasons I love these is because they got beveled edges.
Okay, yeah.
So I was using big rings, but I was using coloured wire.
Yeah.
And I needed to not
mark
them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the flat nose ones you can get, they all have that little edge to them.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I was tired of attacking them with files. So I used these ones and I snapped 2 pairs of them. Admittedly, I got through the shirts first.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I now have a backup pair of these in case I snap them. But these are beautiful for fine detailed work, for the finer metals, and again for the beveling because they don't have that edge on them. But I've ended up with a range of pliers. I also have a whole pile of pliers that I don't use anymore that I got because they were supposed to be the next best thing or the best pliers possible to do chainmail with, and they ended up being not that.
Oh, okay.
And when you spend $70 on each of them, that's all of them, right? Which is one of the reasons that I have all the pliers out of the workshops now.
Right.
Because because you know what it's like. Grace uses 2 bent nose pliers. Do you remember this one? These are bent nose pliers. I can't use these. A lot of chainmailers do because you can use the wide side to grip one side of the rings, and then if you want to get into finer detail, you can use the pointy bit. So the logic of it
Works.
perfect. The logic works perfectly. And I know a lot of people that make really, really nice stuff with it. They do not work for me. They drive me slightly mad. And I think if I had the time to sit down and kind of work with them, I could get them to work. But because I started working with different pliers, they're not.
Your muscle memory is different.
Yeah, my muscle memory is different, and I'd need to train myself to use them. So I tend to just work with what I've got. I tend to prefer the flat nose pliers or chisel nose pliers. I don't really use bent nose for much. Owen's favourite ones are these chisel nose ones, which work kind of the same as the bent nose ones because you've got the flat edge that you can kind of hold the larger rings with. And then if you want to get to doing really, really fine detailed work, these ones, there's nothing better. There's absolutely nothing better. Yeah. The only thing that the only reason I kind of am staying away from them is because I know I'm going to stab myself with these.
Oh, yeah.
I know it. I've tried them when I've needed pliers and I haven't had mine near me. Owen's lent them to me, and I've slashed myself with these babies.
Oh, yeah.
And considering my level of random clumsiness, probably better for me to stay the hell away from them. That doesn't mean they're not going to work for other people.
Yeah, and just quick health and safety.
Health and safety. Be careful. If you're slightly clumsy, maybe don't use the pointy stabby process. But yeah, I can imagine if I end up doing proper micrometal, like the JPL. I did with these. Actually, I should probably I shouldn't pull that out. If I pull that out, I'm going to have to try and show everyone on the stream.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be able to focus on it. The JPL I did with 24 gauge wire, and I think the rings were about 1.5 mil in a diameter. So
You can find out what gauges are, what thickness gauges are by searching online.
Yeah. Basically the thickness of the wire, and then the inner diameter.
Larger the number, the smaller, the thinner the wire.
Yeah. Let's just go with they were bloody tiny and leave it at that. But yeah, those ones I did with the Tronex pliers, and they worked pretty well. I'm thinking of getting some of those Tronex in because Steve's got Tronexes.
Oh, yeah.
He got them for his birthday last year. Or
Nice.
Technically, his lovely girlfriend got himself for his birthday last year. See, maybe that's another thing we should advertise chainmailers.
Yeah.
It makes people really easy to buy for.
Yeah.
Because, Grace, for Christmas birthdays?
Yeah, Christmas and
Christmas
birthday.
and birthdays this year?
Yep.
All of the chainmail. Chainmail supplies. Yeah. Cannot go wrong with the chainmail supplies.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just checking Facebook to see if there's anything else you can probably
God damn.
Sorry, just noticed comments and things.
From?
On Steelweb.
Right.
On the page thing. Sorry, none of them need to be gone into right now. So yeah, this is basically MonkeySpace. We usually have. Did we bring plums and stuff?
We got peaches and stuff in the end of the
Yeah, peaches.
from our peach tree.
Oh, and those where the peaches are.
Do you remember the big giant plum tree?
Oh my god!
Right,
Show a
don't-
photo.
don't-
Show a photo.
We went to go to live in on Friday. I went downstairs, opened the shed. This was all cool. Went to go hang out some laundry later on, and then spotted.
Sorry, we have a giant plum tree on our property. It's a rental property, not our property, and it kind of fell over. So now we are taking it apart for wooden things. But it did manage to fall apart perfectly because it landed right in the middle of everything in exactly the right spot to not actually damage
Anything.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But now Owen has a fair amount of chopping up things to do.
So that was the plum.
Yeah,
Plum tree.
one of the plum trees.
You know, the big old
There is
plum
another
tree.
one.
The big.
Yeah.
I know, but it's good though because we were going to stick a seat in it.
Yeah.
With a rope
Yeah,
and
not
send
anymore.
small children up there to pick the plums. So we're kind of glad that it fell down before we did that.
Yeah, I think the trees are too old for this stuff.
The trunk had rotted in.
Yeah.
It looked like it hadn't been pruned properly, and some of the branches that had been cut off had actually rotted. They hadn't been sealed.
They hadn't sealed them. Yeah.
So it rotted down, and the trunk is half rotted. So I'm going to try and salvage what wood I can out of it. Some will be firewood, some will be used for food smoking, some will be used for woodworking. So, and all of it's getting used.
Yeah.
None of it's going to waste.
Yeah, I think one of my engagement gifts from one of my group classes, one of the ladies gave me a smoking gun.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I've got one of those at home.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like I have no idea how to use this, but I think I know people who do.
Yes.
Chips in there, turn it on, pipe it into a bag with your meat in it, or whatever vegetables or whatever you want. I haven't used mine yet.
Yeah, it's just like it's something in a small apartment with like smoke detectors in like every single room and
Yeah.
seal the bag.
Is it a Breville one?
Yeah.
Purpley box?
Mm-hmm. That's the same
Same
thing
one
I
I've
was
got.
got.
Came with like little two bags of chips.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Feature one and a wooden one.
Smoky.
Yes, smoky one. That one. I know words.
Thingy one that tastes one way and one that tastes a different way, but is still also the taste of this.
Right, we've done an hour almost.
Ooh, excitement. How many people have we got? One?
Drop down from 3,
Right.
slowly. But it is getting late. Like, people they've been with us this part of the hour, so.
Small was wondering about going through weeds and things. Who have we still got?
Don't know.
Okay. All good. It's mostly just kind of giving people an idea of what happens for these so that they can come along.
I think the vocabulary expanded to squish.
Yeah.
Or
Oh
squish.
my god, Shani.
Squish, yes.
Squishy.
Yep. All the
I invited Shana to potentially drop in if she wanted a distraction, but she's gone to make something out of clay.
Nice.
Yeah.
3.4, I guess the look is 3.4 second to alpha.
Ooh, 2 people.
Hello.
3.4 star.
Hello, new people.
You see the team players taking care of the star.
Have I told you what we're doing with these, Grace?
with the
Yeah. Down in Levin, we actually met someone who knew what Explore was, had just come from Kiwiburn, knew one of the guys we met in Thames, the one that decided to wear the red Sonia skirt as a cape.
Oh yeah.
Did you get told about that one?
I can't remember.
Mad German man, absolutely bloody lovely. Came up, was wearing a giant hood and a whole bunch of furs.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I
I
think you
can't
have
remember
told
who
me.
was helping us, but she threw the scale on him because it would be fun.
Yeah.
I think it was Happy. It was Happy who did it.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up prancing around in it for the entire day, like wandered off in it, then came back to complain that when he tried, he was doing a flow thing with like a tennis ball on a string.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he danced around with it, it kept falling off because it wasn't actually a harness; it was just a skirt. But he draped it and it kept sliding off. So if I wanted to make one, I should probably set it up with things that go under the sleeves.
Yeah.
So she knew him. He's actually left the country again now.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw it on Facebook a little while ago. I was kind of gutted. I was hoping it was going to come to school. But she basically said, "Oh my God, I wish I could go to that. I love those events." She's now coming along to help us set stuff.
Awesome.
But she also has an epic mohawk. It's freaking cool. So these things,
Yes.
with the chains between the mohawky things. I'm not going to show people on the feed. They're going to have to tune in later on when I get them finished up because I'm going to be taking photos of her on Monday in the coolness, and then she's going to be wearing it at Explore. So if you want to see it, you're going to have to tune in again. But yeah, they're going to be cool headpieces and stuff.
In what? 2 weeks? You got the total one in 2 weeks?
Total 1 in 2 weeks, yeah.
Which is post-law.
Yeah. But I'm going to be taking photos and posting them up while we're at Explore as well. Oh my God, I really love it. And we now have a 6 meter space as well. I got called last week and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're going to, how big is your site?" And I was like, "I thought the site was 3 by 3. They usually are." And they're like, "Oh, how much space are you going to need? I mean, have you got more than that?" I was like, "Well, we can fill space. We can fill as much space as you're willing to give us. How much space can we have?" And they're like, "Oh, we'll put you down for 6 by 3. I was like, "Okay." Because it means that our friend Eden is coming along to explore with us, so she's going to be installing chainmail pieces in people's hair so they can buy them and pay for the installation at the same time, and that way the next day if they fall out they can come back in and get them redone.
Yeah.
So we're going to actually be able to set up a space for her to kind of do that, and we're able to push out the mannequins and stuff onto the walkway as well, they've said.
Oh, neat.
You all right?
I was going to show Grace the picture of the head thing I made.
Do you know where it is?
It's on my phone.
What's wrong with your phone?
No battery.
My charger's in the car.
So is mine. That's right.
Oh, no.
I've made a very, very large ring chainmail headpiece.
Oh, wow.
In 4-in-1, but it comes out in a triangle.
Yes.
Okay.
And then scale strips.
Scale sides.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff we've been making this morning. Oh, it's moderately terrifying, gotta say. Probably the most money we've spent on any one event. And no idea how it's going to go. Like, don't know what people are actually going to be buying, don't know if they're going to be buying. It's going to be interesting. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun experiment. Alright, I'm going to turn that off. But it is slightly nerve-wracking. Would be better if my body wasn't being such a giant pain. But yes, not much I can do that. I'm trying to set it up as best we can to make it not be an issue. And just making sure we get on with as much stuff as we can.
Yeah.
I'm looking into new workspace apps because my free trial for Monday is finished, and they don't tell you how much it is until after you finish the free trial. Yes, I know.
Too much.
Yeah, too much. So I'm looking for another free one, which I'm then going to kind of bring people together or get everyone to come join in on. I've sent the stock to Sarah, and Eden's been working on her pieces. So
Yeah, Eden sent me some photos of all the kit that she's made, like several dreads of candy cane.
and
It
it
looks
all
so good. I'm just like, I'm so envious you have enough time to actually make it.
wait, when I have enough money to actually pay people to do it, then it will not so much be a matter of time. It will be a matter of right. We need this much of stuff by this time.
Yes.
Who hasn't? But what I'm planning on doing with the workspace is basically trying to figure out how to bring in new people when I haven't seen that much of their work. and know that I'm going to get something back that I can actually say. Like I've been, some of the work that I've been seeing, some of the people that have been wanting to kind of get involved in this, I'm trying to figure out ways of saying, I need your closures to be better, or I need you to have more focus on this, which is it's a different kind of thing than I've had to do before. So I'm kind of working through that in my head and trying to figure out if there's a, because even if like, at this point, you're making candy cane and Eva's making those roasts, I can't do it. So I really have to learn those, so if I need to adjust one, I can bloody well do it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of looking at it and going, right, well, I need these pieces made up in half version 4-in-1. Who do I know that knows it? And then how do I don't know whether it's judging the quality of all of the work, setting standards, for the work that is going to come in.
Yeah.
And just applying that standard to anything they make in the future, or whether it's going to be a matter of, no, before you start doing this weave, I need to see an example of your version of this weave. Yeah. I'm saying, like, really thought this far ahead, or had thought that there'd be this many people wanting to come out.
Yeah.
Because the split ring scale mills, simple, because if the rings are fine, then you're generally fine, you know?
Yeah, you don't have to
There's so many ways you can mess it up, yeah. But I'm so particular about closures. And there's pieces of mine that have been out there for a little while that I'll see closures on and fix them, and I don't want it to be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it's going to end up being, 90% me doing quality control and not me being able to actually make stuff myself, which would be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at potentially, we're going to take a break for a while after school. Mostly just do MonkeySpace. We've got the one coming up in Thames. We've been asked to work in Wanganui.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, hopefully they'll be able to start. But I want to run you guys through doing a workshop before I set workshops up in Auckland when I'm again. Because I know that you guys know the weaves. I know that you can make the chainmail.
Yeah.
But I've done so many workshops. There's things that I can give you that will make the process easier.
Yeah, it's learning.
We've troubleshooted it.
Yeah, we've troubleshooted it. We might as well share that. And then you guys will start from, further ahead than we started, and then be able to come back to us with more advice on stuff that you found that works to get points across to people as well. But it's also looking at what weaves we offer workshops for, because there's quite a lot of interest in the scale mail, which is great, and I want to start doing more obscure weaves, but there's some that you need to have European 4-in-1 before you go further.
Yeah.
It's
It's trying to figure out which are the most basic weaves kind of thing, well, like the essential skills.
Yeah, and the limited time that we have, actually here. And then starting to keep a database of who's done the basic weave.
Yeah.
So who is going to be able to come into a slightly more advanced weave, and we're not going to have to go on about opening and closing rings well. And the terminology, which seems to kind of stick people the first little while. And I want to start doing ones for zilly balls as well, but I need to get more stock. Yes. I actually have. I think I found 4 of the standard spheroid kits.
Yeah.
I've got a Yatsani Hedron on order for Eden.
Yeah.
But you wanted standard spheroids, didn't you? Or did you want different sizes?
I think it was going to be like one of each of them, so one of the standards, one of the standard and one of the
Anglos? Okay.
And I think it's going to be like a standard one, and which is I can't remember which one's got the bigger diameter, but
The Anima Hedron's bigger than the Yatsani Hedron.
The Yatsani Hedron's smaller than the standard spheroid.
Yeah. And the other question is, how big do you want the holes in the spheres to be, so that you can thread things through them? Because what you can potentially do, I realize it's riskier, but figure out what diameter you want the ball to be approximately, and how big you want the large rings to be in it. So how big they need to be to thread things through them.
Yeah.
And then I can ask Michael what he has in stock in those sizes.
Yeah.
Please.
I think the idea I was gonna do is like have the fairy lights inside the walls, so just kind of have the fairy lights. So
Do
yeah,
you
do
mind
just,
talking about wedding plans on the stream? Is it secrets?
no.
Okay, just checking, just making sure you know.
Yeah, just yeah, so like here, because you make the spheres into a heart and you just send them together. So putting the fairy lights in before you send them together.
Because I have,
For those who don't know, standard spheroids are giant balls.
yeah, do we have
Chainmail balls.
I bought the kits.
I didn't pack it.
Right. Cool.
Oh, we had the kits, we just don't have the balls.
We don't have the balls yet. The Zilly balls are amazing pieces of chainmail engineering designed by a guy called Heinrich, who has a company called Zilly Mail in Germany. And the kits we get are made up by a guy called Michael, who runs 7M Armories in Canada. The ring sizes are ridiculously specific. I know when I first saw them, my thoughts were, I'll make the first one and then I'll figure out the ring sizes to make more. Yeah, don't do that. It will take the rest of your life and you will go insane. Michael's been making up, because Heinrich has mandrels that he made to get the right sizes for the rings. He's given that information to Michael because he couldn't keep up with the demand for the kits. So Michael is now making them, but he had to get the mandrels specifically sized. And some of them didn't come out right the first time, so the only way that he has to do it, to test it, is to make up the sphere. So the amount that he has made that have then not worked, and the amount of mandrels he's had to have remade just staggers me. I know he was working on one over the last year, possibly several years, called the Gargahedron, which is beach ball sized, all made up of smaller rings, made up in sections. And he had to go through it 6 times before he actually found a ring size combination that worked. And by go through it, I mean make it to a certain point, a process that would have taken a bloody long time, and then realize that it was too tight and it was not going to go any further. So the way that I tend to put it to people, because I've had a few people like buy a kit and want to make more of them and want to try and figure out the ring sizes themselves, it ain't worth it. Like the level of obsession and insanity with chainmail I am completely open about. I am very obsessed with the stuff. It's freaking cool. I am not that mad yet. I do not have the right level of insanity to get the ring sizes that perfect. And to be able to make something that big 6 times and still go back to the drawing board and make it again. So I'm more than happy to send Michael money to encourage his insanity so that he can keep doing the awesomeness that he does. And we get to make the shiny things.
Without that level of insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather put my insanity to different uses. I know that I have probably as much as Michael, because we have some very fun conversations.
Oh, yes.
But I'm gonna hate life less if I make different things. But yeah, he's actually finished the Gargahedron now, so I really want one. So please buy lots of chainmail so I have enough money to invest in a kit, because then I'll put up photos of me doing it and tearing my hair out and probably not.
Yeah, please wear it as a helmet. I want to see a progress photo of you wearing it as like a space helmet.
Yeah, I may have a photo. Have I shown you the face hugger photo that Michael sent me?
Maybe.
He was halfway through one of them and he sent me a photo of him wearing it like being attacked by the Gargahedron like it was a face hugger.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, we have some fun conversations. He understands the insanity that comes with trying to chainmail as a business, because part of the issue with the orders for him is he was making rings and selling them, and there wasn't enough money coming in from it. So he started a tow truck company.
Yeah.
And then he had a whole bunch of ring orders. But because he was trying to run a different company, he had half the amount of time to put into it. So now he's kind of behind on all of the things, mostly sleeping and eating, because a lot of the towing jobs he does, he then doesn't get paid for a month or so. Yeah, it's fun. And he's managing to make both of them work. Pretty. Owen is making headpieces for. Can you pass me one of the ones with the chains?
Mm-hmm.
Headpieces for Splore. So he made me one of these on a chain where the chain was actually woven as well, and it was expensive. So now we are going to do them like this. Can you see my face?
Down.
Oh, oh look, now you can see my face, and I'm not trying to break my neck. So yeah, here's one that I prepared earlier, and this is one that Owen has just finished. So we're going to have these on sale at Splore, and people to put them in hair and stuff. Awesome Friday. And I'm going to find stuff and stick it on the end of it. But yeah. It's not going to, no, my hands are more interesting than my face, don't it?
Don't know. We might keep more people this way.
It's going to get really heavy really fast.
Probably really noisy more than anything.
Probably, yeah. How many people have we got now?
2.
I have it was never about having thousands of people watching. It's more for the people that are out of town and can't necessarily come through.
Yeah.
So we're not necessarily going to be massively entertaining for hours at a time because, I mean, I could do that, but I get consent after about 10 minutes. And I can't always tell when I've stopped making sense. Thankfully, it's entertaining, apparently. But yeah, I'm not sure how entertaining to people that don't actually know me. Eden and Grace at some point are going to get shirts. Eden's is going to say, I am not Grace, and Grace's is going to say, I am not Eden. Because when I get tired, I will call anyone in the immediate vicinity, anyone else's name that's in the immediate vicinity, without realizing that I'm doing it. I kind of hit my head very hard against something a while ago, and it caused some problems. Bloody annoying. So I have, on a previous occasion, introduced a friend of mine to another friend of mine by the correct name, and then called them by the wrong name in the same sentence. Didn't even take a breath. So, you know.
That's talented.
I don't know. What can I say? It's a gift. So I'm happy to prattle about chainmail for as long as anyone will let me, as you've probably noticed by now. But I can't always guarantee I'm going to make sense. So if I say anything that doesn't make sense, please just ask me what the hell I'm talking about, because I probably don't know. Or I probably haven't noticed. What do you reckon? Should I go through a couple of weeks while we're still here, or how are we going for time, babe?
We're an hour and 15 minutes in.
Okay, so we're still at like an hour and
Hour and 45 minutes.
You guys want to see some weaves? What you want to see? Are you happy watching me make chainmail, ignoring me make chainmail?
One person.
Yeah. What do you want to do?
Oh, we got 2.
What do you want to do?
Chinese.
Oh, I got Chinese.
Yeah,
Okay.
shove shinies.
All right. Do you want to check me European weaves?
Yeah.
Okay. Prepare yourselves for the chainmail lecture. All of the weaves, the tutorial weaves that I have set up myself, are based around European 4-in-1.
All right, sorry, I had to take a phone call. What did I miss? NAS project.
Hi.
Lots.
Rambling, mostly lots of rambling. It's now focused on my face. Battery?
Yeah.
I plugged it in before.
Here's the one we plugged in earlier.
Because last time it ran out of battery. This time we're not going to make the same mistake again. Right. Okay. For me, a basic rundown that I tend to give people on weaves. European weaves are basic geometric shapes. They tend to be squares, circles. They're most of the chainmail that you'll have seen. Persian weaves are more angular, so they're V shapes and diamonds. And then the Japanese weaves are hexagons and heptahedrons and dodecahedrons and will break your brain. All of the first tutorials that I've set up are based around European 4-in-1 because I first started doing tutorials when I went to an Armageddon and realized that for me to make a shirt for someone was several $1,000s, and I couldn't afford to pay me to make a shirt for me. So why would anyone else be able to? So I started making my own rings in country, which I was already kind of doing, but that was when I ramped up production because I figured if I can't make it for someone, I can show them how to do it, I can guide them through doing it, and then I can kind of let them do it themselves. Do you want to make piles of like European weaves? Persian weaves and then Japanese weaves. Good. So this is European 4-in-1. That's the weave in 4 mil. That's the weave in 5 mil. It's probably not going to be fantastically in focus, but I am actually planning on doing videos on these and taking decent photos and doing comparisons and stuff in all of my free time, which I have so much of. Yeah, it's in the plans and it will actually happen. It's just having time at home and brain space when I'm actually making sense to do it. Most of the shirts that you've seen, most of the armor you have seen online on movies and stuff is going to be European 4-in-1. It was used pretty much everywhere. It's not just European. We do not have a monopoly on it. I've seen Persian shirts that are made in this. I've seen, there's so many amazing historical examples of armor that I found in museums. They're all made with this weave because it's, the basic way of putting stuff together. And it works. It's dense. It's strong if you do it in the right size rings. This is a kinged version of it. Generally, when a weave has been kinged, it's exactly the same pattern, but every ring is doubled. And then you have variations like these. This is European 6-in-1. So European 4-in-1 is called that because every one ring has 4 rings going through it. You may not have been on before, but this is a unit of European 4-in-1. 1 ring with 4 rings going through it. One of the ways of speed weaving 4-in-1 is making up a whole bunch of those and then stringing them together, because then, making the 5s is something you can do without really thinking about it, and stringing it together is what you can do when you feel like lifting heavy things or you have your loom. I've got a wooden loom with nails on it. You can hook things over so you don't have to hold up heavy chainmail while you're making it. It's priceless, get one. At least if you're planning on making big pieces. This is 6-in-1, which means every one ring has 6 rings going through it. So the weaves that I have kits of are 6-in-1, kinged 4-in-1, and then box chain, which is a strip of 4-in-1, which is then folded in a particular way and woven together. And yeah, so all of the kits that I do will leave you able to make your own shirts and stuff. There's also so many tutorials online, it's insane. That's how I learned. But one of the reasons that I started doing my own kits is because then I know exactly what someone's getting. I wrote the tutorials myself, I took the photos myself, and it comes with my contact details. So if you get halfway through it and you get lost and you can't figure out what you're doing, you can contact me and go, why did you miss out a step? What is wrong with you? Which you can't really do with everyone else you meet online, which makes it trickier because there are some tutorials that make perfect sense to one person but make no sense to a different person. You right? What are you after?
Yeah, I think the Japanese ones.
I don't know how many Japanese ones are in there.
There's
Some of them are
one
still
on
being
the-
cleaned and stuff. There's
there
that
was-
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of those are.
Have you got box chain anywhere in there? Sorry, I have a giant box of weaves, which is basically all of the weaves that I can make. I might steal.
Yeah, I want my finger.
No, mine. Okay, here are some of the things with other stuff.
That's the bottom where it is.
These all
More squishy
smell.
things.
Very squishy things. These all smell weirdly of Dettol because we had someone handling them whose child had conjunctivitis. My dad is an eye surgeon. I know how incredibly contagious that can be. So we basically tumbled all of them with Dettol. So now when we open the case, this is a giant waft of chemical smell. Right, that is box chain. That is also box chain, but it's a little bit looser. So that's the last kind of kit. So you make a strip of 4-in-1, and then you fold it, and it becomes box chain. This is also based on 4-in-1. It's called round nail, and that is a variation of it where part of it is closed and part of it isn't. I don't know if that's in focus. It probably
Question:
isn't.
what historical people had the worst chainmail?
Define worst.
Yeah, define worst,
Define
because
worst.
that is a comparative term
The
depending on what
problem-
it's facing.
The problem with historical chainmail is none of the chainmail that I have here is actually technically historical chainmail. And historical chainmail and the kind of chainmail that we're making are very different things, because historically, chainmail was riveted. It was either riveted or it was half riveted and half washers, because buttered chainmail does not hold up against anything. So the reenactors that I know, some of them use spring steel, which is very hard metal, made into springs. It's extremely tough on your hands, but I have seen that stuff explode and rings fly everywhere from a decent hit with a weapon. So everyone that I know that does full contact medieval martial arts, they use riveted chainmail. Because if you don't use riveted chainmail, you will spend every minute that you're not fighting fixing your chainmail.
The requirements in full contact is riveted.
Because the rest of it's just not strong enough. There's a lot of myths kind of around chainmail and how strong it is. There's a lot of historical movies where you have someone wearing just a chainmail shirt with nothing underneath it, which does show off nice muscles quite well, but is not particularly practical in real life if you don't want very interestingly shaped bruises or a giant hole in you with bits of metal in it.
We are working on a video.
Prior to antibiotics, was not a good idea. It's really not a good idea. So yeah, massive infection. Basically, historically, everyone wore gambesons, so basically quilts that you wore underneath chainmail armor, and not everyone had chainmail because it's very, very expensive to make.
Right.
Question.
The overall skill, design, and effectiveness of the chainmail was most comparatively inferior at the time compared to other nations or people in the time.
Right. That might be something that I need to research. Because, to be honest, there is a lot of chainmail out there that is not European. I've been finding some amazing stuff on, there's a few different Instagram accounts that I follow. There's a few different, Metropolitan Museum has an amazing armament section, and they have some stunningly gorgeous Persian chainmail shirts with metal plating in them. I might post up a couple of links and stuff to them. I've been posting some of them on my Instagram page. I posted a few of them through MonkeySpace a little while ago. But I don't know enough. Getting actual historical examples of chainmail is difficult, partly because chainmail was very expensive to make. So the Battle of Bisbee, we've got a book on the Battle of Bisbee. Technically, my partner owns a book on the Battle of Bisbee that I am laying claim to because it's awesome. But Bisbee was an unusual battle because a lot of people died very close together and they couldn't actually do anything about the bodies for long enough for the bodies to start swelling, which made it very, very hard to get them out of the armor. So they ended up being put into pits. And so you have a lot of examples of people in the mail they were still wearing. They just got dumped because they couldn't take sorry?
The bodies have been stuck in a bog for 3 days and had swollen and bloated within the soft, flexible stuff.
I was trying to avoid doing
the graphic. But then they grabbed.
It wasn't necessarily for you. I don't know who else is listening to this.
Then they grabbed the whole bodies and just threw them into a pit because you couldn't take the armor off them.
No, it was physically impossible to take the armor off them, which for archaeologists was amazing because they actually had examples of metal with preserved material. The material doesn't preserve wonderfully well. So they had the preserved material stuck between the bits of metal, still on the figure, so they knew exactly how it was worn. But one of the things they found with the armor is they would have a chainmail shirt with pieces of chainmail that were different ages. Because if part of your chainmail broke, you wouldn't then throw away the entire thing, because that was stupid, because the entire thing took so long to make. You would take whatever was usable and attach it to something else. So dating chainmail is really, really difficult. It's something that I am honestly utterly fascinated by. I would love to go and look at actual historical examples of chainmail and look more into this, but finding the sources for it is quite difficult. But I'm entirely happy to research the crap out of this and then do a public series of videos on it.
Perfect. Put them in the trebuchet and start a new war.
Yeah, that'll work.
Vikings didn't really have trebuchet though, and nor did the peasants. And
already won.
Yeah.
So it was everyone in the besieged fortress
town
was dead by this point. That actually, one of the things that makes it a fascinating battle is because the people that were attacking them used a lot of leg strikes. So they know this from, is that accurate?
No. So the Vikings were coming in, attacking Gotland, which is a small island off the coast of Sweden. They fought their way up the island, and at the last town, Visby, they the town basically does a last-ditch defense of itself. The Vikings are riding horses. So there is a lot of leg strikes from the people attacking the guys on the horses, but they use the case study of these bodies because they pulled out 75 full suits of armor out of the bogs. It's the largest find of armor in one go. They went ahead and they can study, they use a pathology education because they can work out where the strikes came through, roughly how many people were male and female. They work out the proportions. The book is amazing.
It's a fantastic book. It's a fascinating battle. Owen has a much better head for actual facts than me. I've
been looking at it longer.
Yeah, he's been studying it for longer and he can store things better in his head. But it is a fantastic battle, and part of the issue is the fact, part of the thing that fascinates me about it is the chainmail. Because none of the chainmail was from the same piece. And because it was a large last-ditch battle, you started off with people in full armor, and then you ended up with people with, an old bit of zinc strapped to them. Basically any metal they could find attached in a way that it would be vaguely defensible. Because they had no one else to fight. They had no one else to actually defend the town. So you have all of the people, different ages, different sexes, just being like, this is metal. I will attach it in some way to my body and try and stop these people from killing me. But the fascinating thing that I found about chainmail is most of the functional chainmail that I've seen, I need to do more research on this, is European 4-in-1, and it's the shirts, and it's got mail attached to it, and it's got bits of metal attached to it, sorry. Japanese chainmail, and Chinese to some extent, but it's mostly Japanese, where it was mostly actually used in defense was, again, the soft, flexible parts which plate metal couldn't cover. So they would use it for attaching pieces. I've got a friend who was the translator.
Assistant.
She helped one of Japan's top armorers translate his books on armoring. Wow. It sounds like the collection that he has. I would give one of my arms to see this collection, because finding actual information on Asian chainmail, Japanese chainmail to be specific, because that's the direction that I was looking in, it's immensely impossible. It's bloody hard, especially if you don't speak Japanese. But she translated his books, and she has helped me find a whole bunch of reference. So the actual Japanese weaves that they used for armor and the weaves that are called Japanese weaves now are very different things. The Japanese weaves were quite structural, but they were a different format than the European weaves. And the way that they seem to be defining chainmail weaves now is based around the actual structural form and the way the rings go through other rings. So a European weave is defined as a weave that uses through-eye connections. So it's the rings that go through the other rings.
Right, hang on. Right, We've got a few things. Step 1, get one. That's a trebuchet. Step 2, find somebody else to use it on.
Yep.
And then continue to world conquest.
Right.
And so you just put up why one of your arms, 12 of others' arms would probably impress them more.
That's true. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, my arms are not for sale.
I need to work on world domination. Because especially if we got a trebuchet, then getting someone else's arms wouldn't be that difficult.
We have a spare freezer.
We do have a spare freezer. We also know people with trebuchet.
Yeah.
I think. I'm not sure if Daryl still has his trebuchet. I did know someone with a trebuchet, so hey, might be able to do it. But yeah, these, basically the rings in these go through the ring. The rings in these ones go, it's through eye and around eye. So I might have to do a different video on this, but that is basically an around eye connection because that's a Persian weave. And then I can't remember how they actually defined the Japanese weaves, but they're working, there's a giant conversation going on at the moment about setting up a new database for chainmail weaves, because the one we have at the moment is called Mail Artisans, and it is awesome. There's a hell of a lot of information on there, but it's not hugely well organized. It's been run by a whole bunch of different people over the years, and nobody is paid to do it. So there's a varying level of focus, commitment, time that people can put into it. But one of the guys who I have been following for quite a long time, Joshua Gilberto, he does amazing chainmail, like insanely good chainmail. I really, really want to get some of his titanium and stainless steel rings because I have heard good things. But again, it's saving up for them. And he's got some pretty freaking epic clasps as well. Have you seen his clasps? He has like shackle clasps that's basically 3 shackles stuck together. So you can attach off like all of the 3 shackles and then attach the 2. They're very cool. I want them.
Yes,
they're shiny.
I have seen those.
But he also does really amazing photos of the weaves that he's done. He designs his own weaves. He does tutorials. He does like a monthly subscription thing where you get sent a kit every month of a different weave with all the rings, all the instructions. Like, I want it. I've approached him before about getting in the subscription kits and getting all of them, like, if I can get multiple people involved, getting all of them sent to me and then me sending them on. But I think because I'm a business, because I have to pay customs on it, I don't know if it makes it feasibly expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway, he got frustrated with male artisans because one of the issues with the database is a lot of people are designing weaves, so they're coming up with new ones. It's one of the things that Owen does.
Yeah, so loot crate for chainmail.
Yes, basically. It's pretty cool. I want it so bad.
There's a couple of them, actually.
But he was frustrated with male artisans because you can send weaves to them to be registered as your weaves, as a weave, when you design them. And I think there have been issues over time. I don't know exactly the history of this, so if I get it wrong, I apologize to the people involved. But there are people that have sent weaves in to be approved and added to the database that have been declined, and then other people have sent the same weaves in, either from learning them online or coming up with them themselves, and they've been approved. And so the initial designer of the weave, or the person that applied it first, or the person that sent it in first, hasn't had the credit. There's also been some discussion on whether there should be tutorials available for all of them. There's a lot of argument at the moment about how dare you monetize my hobby. It's like, well, okay, so it's a hobby for you, but for me, it comes back to what I was saying about Michael. If someone is doing this thing that is awesome, that you don't have time for, that you like watching, that you would like to have the benefits from, you should be prepared to pay that person. So if someone is prepared to come up with insane weaves that I then look at and go, wow, I wish I knew how to do that, quite happy to give them money for it. Absolutely happy to give them money for it. But they're running into issues because if the designer of the weave doesn't want to put a tutorial up there, the debate has been open to the fact that someone else should be able to make a tutorial and put it up there. And how do you define ownership of a weave and yada, yada, yada. And unfortunately, there are so many weaves now. So they're also working on how you define a weave, which is another entirely fun conversation that I'm very glad I'm not part of. Because there's a Spiral 2-in-1, Spiral 3-in-1, and JPL.
Yeah.
Can you find me an example of the Spiral one? I think I have JPL here. Basically, there are 2 weaves, which when you define them, sound exactly the same, but do not work the same. That is it. Cool. So that is JPL. There are entire forums online based on, is this JPL? Because it is a notoriously difficult one to learn.
That is why I've been too scared to approach it.
I will help you with it if you like. I have finally beaten JPL. It's one of the reasons I haven't done Maurice Rose yet, because I was trying to focus on that one.
Fair enough.
That is a spiral weave. So if it's loose, it just looks like a collection of rings. If each of the ends are connected to something, it becomes a spiral. Now, technically, the way that you put the rings together for that one and the way that you put the rings together for the JPL, exactly the same. Technically. Apparently. I haven't done any intense looking into it myself, but I respect the people and the chainmail skills of the people that have, so I'm entirely prepared to say this is the way that things are, because they know what they're talking about. But they are obviously creating something different, so does aspect ratio, in other words, how big the rings are and that relationship the relationship that creates with the weave and whether or not that makes it work, does that define a weave? Or does a description of how you put the rings together define a weave? like, it's a conversation I'm very glad that I'm not part of because it sounds exhausting. And it's raising some very interesting questions because if someone comes up with a weave but then doesn't register the weave and then someone else comes up with a weave, which is entirely possible to do. Like, I figured out weaves just from looking at pictures of them.
Yep.
And when you get to a certain level of chainmailing, I think that that's okay. If you can look at a photo of something and then figure out the ring sizes and recreate it, nobody can stop you from doing that. You're not stealing anything from them.
No.
But if you
did that and then wrote a tutorial.
and then sold it and made money off someone else's work. I mean, if you were doing a tutorial and a kit, so you gave someone the ring so that they could do it, that would be one thing. But one of the things that I thought about setting up for the database, the new database that they're working on, is setting it up so if there was a tutorial there, then if someone wanted to learn a weave, there would either be links to places that did tutorials for them that had a thing factored into it so that every time someone bought one of the tutorials, the person that designed it got $1, which is not much.
Yeah.
It's not much money in the scheme of things. You can factor that into the costs of stuff, but it means the person that came up with the weave actually gets funded so that they can come up with more weaves.
Yeah.
Which does not to me sound like a bad idea considering some of the weaves these people have come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And it means the one that has put the time, because I've made tutorials for stuff and making the pieces takes time, figuring out how to word it takes time, and then troubleshooting it and making sure it makes sense takes time. And the photos takes time. I mean, one of the things that Joshua was talking about doing was every weave that is on the database has to have a photo with it, and the same people do the photos so that they're the same quality. Because the ones on Male Artisans, some of them are amazingly detailed photographs that show you the weave, and some of them are taken with a cell phone, like
An old cell phone.
an old
low quality.
10 years ago cell phone, low quality, very hard to see what the
Poor
weave looks like.
lighting.
So it's the access to the information without necessarily having ownership of it, I suppose.
So, for example, if somebody submitted it and came up with the idea on its own, but then a lost piece of writing done years before did something the same,
Yeah.
then the question of who it belongs to would also come up.
That's true. So it's quite a loaded topic, and I love what Joshua Gilberto was trying to do because he was frustrated with the current database and the way that it was set up and the way that they weren't listening to the people that it was supposedly for. So he opened it up to mailers to try and get people's opinions on it. But then there are so many different opinions out there that are all contrasting opinions. Like, we're never going to get to a point where everyone agrees with what you're doing.
No.
In my head, the ones that are volunteering to do the work, i.e. Joshua Roberta, at some point, he should get to say, okay, I've listened to all of you, I've taken your viewpoints on board, this is the best thing we can do at the moment. But I don't think that anyone has any right to monetize someone else's idea or monetize someone else's concept or someone else's work. So I think figuring out a way of avoiding that would be good. I've looked at doing a database of weaves myself and trying to put in, this is the person that came up with it. This is, I mean, I've been wanting to do videos and stuff on different weaves for a while. Something that I'm working on, along with everything else, but part of it is going to be a matter of sitting down and actually being able to make sense of it enough to record it. And having someone to talk to as well. Because I find when I'm sitting here and talking to people, it's a lot easier than when I'm sitting here trying to talk to myself, or trying to talk to my computer, or trying to talk to imaginary people. Or when I try and script myself, I end up being like, hi, welcome to my page, and this is my email, and I don't know what I'm talking about, and then I just lose track of everything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to force my friends to come over so I can talk to them incessantly about chainmail at some point, and then try and cut something together so that you guys can actually see half of the weaves that I have in my collection, because when it comes down to it, whether it's a job or a hobby you're trying to make into a job, it's an amazing resource, and there's so many different directions you can take it in, and there's so many different things you can do with it, and there's so much information that is out there about it that it shouldn't be any one person's property. Yeah, basically.
Intellectual property is a bitch.
Yes.
So more thinking of it as a creative medium rather than as methods of a trade.
Yes. And I think if someone comes up with a specific weave, then they should absolutely get credit for that weave. But once it is out there, it's very difficult to maintain ownership of it or enforce rules on it for everyone out there.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to have the people going, but this is a hobby. I just want to know the tutorial. Why are you charging me for this?
Like out of industry.
Yes. And the people going, look, I've just spent a week of my time making the pieces for this tutorial, making sure when I write it down and take photos of it, it's something that you can follow. I don't have the time to do that for no money. And unfortunately, what seems to be happening is the same thing as what's happening with Michael. There was an amazing group called Blue Little Boutique. Yes. They closed down because they weren't getting enough money to make it a business. Unfortunately, it's the same thing as ads on YouTube. Everyone complains about how many ads there are on YouTube. Unfortunately, we decided we shouldn't have to pay for content. And the way that we pay for content is by watching ads. And that's how the people that make stuff on YouTube get paid for the content that they make. Now there's things like Patreon, and there's other ways that you can actually fund someone to keep doing what they're doing without actually having to pay for every piece of content that they create, which I really approve of. But if we're going to support artists to keep doing what they're doing, at some point they're going to need to get paid because they need food and a place to sleep and the resources to
continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah, basically. And not starve or, and occasionally be able to go to the doctor if they need to and not have everything that they've built fall apart because of a sudden medical bill or there need to be margins in there. And I didn't understand that before I started trying to make this a business. I really had no bloody idea what I was doing. But yeah, margins on things are so bloody tight. And there's a fine line between trying to make something a price that people can actually afford and being able to cover bills. Yeah. So I've become extremely happy to pay people that I believe are doing something I would like to see continue for doing that thing. This has gotten slightly existential rather than talking about actual chainmail stuff.
It is still chainmail related.
It is. I mean, there's so many amazing chainmailers out there, and one of the things that I want to do with the weed videos is finish it and be like, right, this is the link to Mail Artisans, which may or may not have a tutorial. Here is a whole bunch of places that do kits.
Starving artists need to starve. Let's pay them an exposure.
You have now died
Sarcasm.
from exposure.
Yes.
Thanks.
When people start taking exposure as currency, then you can start paying people an exposure. Unfortunately, you cannot eat chainmail rings. Though I have found them stuck to my milk.
You can, but they're just not very beneficial.
Well, yeah, they tend to go straight through you and not really provide anything useful on the way. Yeah, no, it's a difficult debate. And when it comes to actual archaeological evidence for chainmail, it's difficult to find. There's a lot of it out there online. Most of it is bollocks. Hate to say it. There's a lot of facts on the internet which does not have much proof backing it up, which is why finding books like the one on the Battle of Bisbee has been priceless. What did he say now?
Eat the squish.
See, now my brain's just going with chainmail spices.
But one of the big things that we find, we've got a video coming up at some point on how well different types of armors work, but really you're only looking at a couple of ones that are actually historical anyway.
One of the questions that I get asked is, what should I make my shirt out of? And unfortunately, there's so many things that you need to take into consideration, as in, what are you planning on using it for? Are you going to be hit with anything? That is an important one, because if you're going to be hit with anything, then you need it to be something that is going to stop you from getting damaged. Because even the people that do the full contact stuff, they don't really want to not function the next week. And aluminium is wonderfully light, but does bugger all against any kind of weapons. So there are some people that want the shiny look of chainmail, but don't want it to actually have to weigh anything. And there's some people that want chainmail, but if it didn't weigh anything, it wouldn't be chainmail to them. So there's such a wide scope of people, and that's not necessarily the fighters, that's just people. There's some people that love steel because of the weight that comes with it, and there's some people that hate it for the same reason. So completely aside from the fighting stuff, it's a matter of what works for you and what you actually want the chainmail to feel like and do. It's one of the reasons that I have so many samples, because chainmail, to a large extent, is as much about what it feels like as it is about what it is. every weave feels differently. Every weave moves differently. So depending on what you want it to do and what it feels like to you, it's going to change what you want to do with it. But when it comes down to a purely defensive thing, what we did for the video is we took a piece of aluminium, a piece of stainless steel, and a piece of spring steel, because we don't have any riveted chainmail, and we beat the crap out of them with an axe and a falchion.
Right.
That must have been good.
Squish.
That's so fun.
Could make it out of leather, then you can eat it, like 3D printed chainmail.
That's true.
I've thought of making it out of vacuum molded spice before.
Yeah, my partner has a spice business. Owen has a spice business. So when we were first running stores, we'd do both of the things in one store because it was cheaper. So we kind of, one of the taglines we've had is we're trying to do things for all of your senses. So the smells and the tasty things are over there, and the touchy-feely things are over here. And then we started talking about making like vacuum compressed rings of spices, so that when you wanted to season a dish, you just break a ring off and chuck it in. Yeah, and then trying to figure out if we could make chainmail out of spices, because everything should be chainmail. Chainmail all the things.
I love it.
Or my viewpoint, everything be spices.
Yes, everything should be spicy chainmail.
Yeah, get that chili in the right place.
And now I'm imagining someone wearing a coif made out of spice rings, and then as they start
Scorpion
sweating,
chili.
it just drops into their eyes, and then you blind them. But that seems like more of a kind of
So you say spicy
an
chainmail.
offensive weapon rather than a defensive one. It doesn't really work for the person wearing it.
Yeah, that's when you export it to the enemy going, here's your new shipment of armor.
Yes. So I will look into different regions and their different uses of armor, because I mean, how even within Europe, within different time periods, there were very different uses of chainmail in armor. When you take into consideration the rest of the planet and the other kinds of actual historical chainmail.
Bad idea if you're fighting cannibals. Maybe a good idea is pre-seasoned meat. No, that's where we've got pre-season games from.
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's thought of pre-season games and considered eating the games.
No, the players.
No, there's a lot of information out there about chainmail, and some of it is more reliable than others. And yeah, it's one of the problems with the amount of information on the internet at the moment. There's a lot of information, but there's not really any
monitoring.
Well, it's hard to separate the bullshit from the truth.
Yeah, fact from fiction.
Basically, yeah.
There's no editorial. No editor.
If you want to say it without swearing, yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll be the PG.
No, please. Believe it or not, it's one of the things I have a massive issue with. I try not to, and then...
Big capitals, that's why it's a bad idea. I'm guessing that's to do with the seasoned meat.
Yes.
But what if you are the cannibal?
Then you'd need to be like the cannibal and have friends that this person could fight and volunteer to give them, like, your armor so that they can defend themselves.
Better off with a sign saying, kill me first, P.S. Your mum's a goat.
Yeah, but then you still die. And you probably still get eaten. How does that work?
But you're dead, you don't care if you get eaten.
I thought the point of it was not to get eaten, not to not flavor yourself before you got eaten.
Hey, they might hold you more reverence and then you'll be better off.
I don't want
tell
to
my
be...
family I love them. Please season me,
No.
whatever.
No, it's tell my family I'm best with chicken.
Yes.
Have you seen the adverts as you drive up in Auckland? It says the only thing your family wants for dinner is you. It's not kidding. I've seen them all over the place. There's a big billboard saying the only thing your family wants for dinner is you.
That's frightening.
Uh-huh. I think it's supposed to be like all heartwarming and stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm dating someone that is slightly strange in the head.
Only slightly?
Yeah. I mean, he's dating me. He has to be at least slightly strange.
This is true.
And I still manage to disturb him sometimes. So
Oh, good.
yeah. I don't know if that's good. I think that should make me worried about my brain.
No, just, just means that your game is on point.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't lost the pitch.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Run away, Ring.
So who also you call them mums a goat? So who wins in the end?
So who wins if you call their mom a goat?
No, if you get eaten.
I think in any scenario where you get eaten, you lose.
I win because I come back stronger. Beyond your wildest imagination.
I don't understand why your mom being a goat was being became.
No, if you get eaten. Star Wars.
Yeah, okay. Still, like, I don't know if you'd be able to come back if you got eaten. Your logic would make no sense.
But I'd be a ghost.
Come to MonkeySpace, geeky conversations and cannibalism. Anyway,
It's all the squish.
I'm so glad we said this was not safe for children. We do safe for children chainmailing things as well. Just not necessarily when we're sitting in a group and rambling at each other. I got to teach some friends of ours kids chainmail while we were down in Stratford.
Oh yeah.
And I actually learned something about doing workshops for kids.
Uh-huh.
Kids like putting in one ring at a time.
Okay.
Yeah. So like some of them would grab my materials and start like putting chainmail together because a lot of the time I'd just pass out because by that point I was knackered.
Yeah.
So I'd come back out and there'd be all these one-in-one chains somewhere, which would be then doing chainmail, which was quite cool.
Yeah.
And one of the kids decided he had to do it in Springsteen as well because he was big and muscular and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he did pretty bloody well.
Yeah.
Until I started being picky about how closed his clothes actually had to be, and he got slightly more frustrated with me. But a lot of them, like they start doing the chainmail,
Yeah.
and having to pre-close a bunch of rings before they could start didn't work for them.
Okay.
So I want to try doing a workshop where I do it one ring at a time and see if that goes better.
Yeah.
Because it's a being able to see what you're making away as well.
Yeah, 'cause, that's how I let my dad build a little loom where I could just hang the chainmail and
Yeah.
watch it grow. And I got to a point that I could speed weave and do 2 rows at a time, that way I only had to go in one direction.
Yeah,
which
it's the
helped.
speed weaving that for me, like, it's why I kind of suggest to people to do it in the first place. It's because it's fun. Okay, difference between speed weaving and adding one ring at a time is a lot of the time you can pre-close rings and then add several rows of the piece at once, which I've done timings, and whether it makes it go faster or not, it makes it feel like it's going faster, which is good. And it does kind of mean if you close a bunch of rings, you're picking something up once, weaving into it, closing it, picking it up, weaving into it, closing it, instead of having to put the piece down and close the rings and then pick it up again and then. So that is generally how I set up my tutorials and how I do my workshops. But I was working with a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old.
That's called a sweatshop. I guess when you're getting your kids to make chainmail.
No, I think a sweatshop would involve more whips with these kids, and they'd still probably eat me alive. No, they'd seen me making chainmail. 2 of them had actually helped me before because we lived down in Stratford for a while, and every time I was down there, one of them in particular would just hand me rings to make chainmail with. The sweetest thing ever. He'd sit next to me holding my little container, and then when he needed your ring, he'd do that, and then he'd do that, and then he'd do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're so cute.
Yeah, that's so cute. I miss those boys so bad. But their cousins were staying with them, and they saw all the chainmail I was working on, and they were like, "Can you show me how to do that?" And I may have made some of our friends the coolest auntie and uncle in the world because they already know how, because I've already done workshops with them. So I was like, "Well, I can show you," or your auntie and uncle could show you because they know how to do it. Do they? Wow. Because most people haven't seen chainmail.
Yeah,
And so we
sure.
sat down and we tried to do 6 in 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, 4 in 1. But because they had to pre-close 4 rings, by the time they got to the end of closing the 4th or the 3rd ring, they were a little bit over it.
Yeah.
And I was focusing on one of them, one of the cousins that kind of started with me, that I sat down and started with. And
Yeah.
one of the boys came over and started doing it, and he looked up and he put 6 rings onto the same ring and closed it, and then started doing a whole bunch of one-in-one chain, because every ring you join builds it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think potentially having say closing 1 ring and then putting a bunch of other rings through it till you have 4 would keep their attention better than trying to pre-close a bunch and then not managing to get through it. It's a theory. It's a theory. I don't know if it's going to work for every kid, but I've only done a few workshops with younger kids.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, the first one I did was a nightmare. I took a bunch of chainmail to a high school.
Yeah.
With a friend of mine in the local community, 'cause she was a teacher there. And we took all the chainmail and they got to try on Owen's shirt. And at the end of the thing, I was like, give me 15 minutes and I'll take like 5 kids through and give them a kit and do them and show them how to do chainmail. And they've never really done a workshop before. And it was 4-in-1, so I was like, well, you know, it's easy. They'll pick it up really quickly. It turns out I've been doing 4-in-1 for about 8 years. This kid's got about 3 steps into it. In the 15 minutes that we had, 5 kids all at the same time was way too many. And I ended up making them their pieces. Because I was basically just making them cuts.
Yeah.
But there was no way that they were going to get it done in time.
Yeah.
Because it takes the first hour of the workshop just to figure out how the weave is supposed to lie.
Yeah.
And get your head around making it do that reliably, I suppose.
Mm.
Yeah. That was fun. Yeah. 11-year-old kids do not pick up chainmail fast. So yeah. They were enthusiastic. They just got very. It's funny because they love watching it grow, but then when they actually have to try and sit down and do it, they get a little bit frustrated. I understand.
Still just sounds like a sweatshop, but with more steps.
Yes. It's the training version.
You want your sweatshop workers to be experienced.
These rings. Sorry, the rings that I'm currently working on are spring steel. So they do not want to move, pretty much ever. But I'm doing a shirt in them for school, and I'm halfway through it, so I'm just making 5 so that I can go through at some point and make a whole bunch of shirts at once. Owen's going to be doing some for me, but I've got him doing 2 little projects at the moment.
Sure, I'll find some more time.
We got 10. We've still got a week.
Not taking the trailer out this weekend, so.
Oh, let me get
Have a think about the Zilly kits, because I still have, do you know if you want the copper and aluminium antimahedron, or just the full silver one?
I think, I'll have to have a look at which one's which again, because one of them I was thinking of doing it was copper.
When's the wedding again?
Don't know yet. I haven't actually said that.
Because the Insanahedron, I only have the kit with copper, so that's the smaller one.
Yeah.
So if we need a full aluminium one, I'll need to order one from Michael with the Insanahedron that I'm getting for
Yeah.
I'm trying to line them up with a computer printer. We're trying to figure out if we can connect his phone to his printer so that he can just print the labels for the courier company that I now have to try and make it easier to get stuff with him.
Nice.
So we're getting closer, but not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But I have an antimahedron in copper and silver and in silver.
Okay.
I have one more in Sanahedron, and I have a couple of standard saris. So if you can let me know which ones you need, I can hold on to them for you, or bill you for them. You can start paying them off.
Yeah.
But it means that I don't sell the stock that you need before we get more of them. And I realize there's probably going to be time for it, but yeah.
Just remember to keep some for April too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's good.
I need to make some up for it.
Okay, so I was thinking I'm starting soon. Just trying to make one myself so I can, we
I
can
still need to do a bloody timing to the thing.
sell it.
Yeah, because I think trying to get an order from Michael before April is going to be a bit much.
Oh, yes.
Nice. Squishy. Well, the people being enjoyable with the squishy. Look. Squishy, 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 squishy. Squishy, squishy, squishy. Squishy, squishy, squishy.
Hours just squish.
Shut up. You know, I would totally do that. Do you actually want to, do you have a costume for those yet?
Not yet.
Would you do one before this weekend? Because I think I would actually sell.
Because Owen was saying that it's probably the best Hokoseki scene.
Yep.
Okay.
It looks good.
Very
And
nice
also,
thing to
if you
do.
could do sets of them in different colours, juggle them.
That is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that these are the 6 mil range, which is of course a tad smaller than the 6.4 mil range, which is ones I have colours.
Do you need 6.4 mil rings then?
Yes.
Because you could probably make the same thing in 6.4 mil rings.
Mm.
There'd just be a little bit more between them, but you'd be able to have them in colour, which yay colour.
Mm.
Idea. Fencing cape with small top layer of fur, mid layer of chain, and bottom layer of crushed velvet.
So are we talking layers like a fur collar and then chainmail and then velvet, or are we talking
Deep
like
layers.
that way and then that way and then velvet? I think the velvet lining would be good, but if you had fur on top of the chainmail, you just wouldn't see the chainmail. And what's the point in that? See, that kind of thing.
Squish, need it.
You can send it to me. See, now you have to do a costing.
Okay.
Cost the thing, damn it.
Yes, once I have time, which is
All of the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still trying to do a costing for some of the stuff that I got off Scott at the last MonkeySpace.
oh yeah.
Still haven't done a costing for his happy sack yet, so you know. I can't really talk.
Okay.
Why is there always more chainmail than time?
It's 2 hours.
Need a bag of them to throw at people.
That's the thing, because that would be $50 just based on time,
Time for that. No.
which is why large rings is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
But it's a matter of figuring out whether it's affordable and then do kits.
Mm.
That's the thing. If you can give someone the rings, the instructions, they can make their own, and you have a cheaper version and a more expensive version.
Yeah.
Because the cheaper version, you just take the labor out.
Mm.
And it's one of the ways that I've started trying to set up all of the chainmail stuff that I've done, because 90% of cost is in the time it takes. Oh, yes. Oh, my
Cape
God.
with diminishing layers to show off best.
Ooh, that would be pretty.
Because yeah, I have done heavy sacks where it was 4 rows of European 6-in-1 and 8-in-1s, and it worked out really well, and just the top's the same as the 6.
Because you could probably do that one in 8 million, but I don't really have 8 million at the moment. Which is nice.
I've still got some.
Yeah, just make sure you charge me for the rings. It's the problem with using some of your stock and some of my stock. We've
Yeah.
got some content rings.
Mm.
How are you going with the rings that I gave you last time? I know you came and picked up a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't actually had time to really make.
That's okay. It's an ongoing thing, so it doesn't have to be for this one.
Yeah.
But it's more, I'm wondering about whether to have the stock here, because then anyone that needs it can come pick up enough for those projects from here.
Yeah.
It's just something I'm going to have to speak to Jeremy about.
Yeah.
On?
Mm-hmm.
What time is it?
309.
Okay, I need to finish sorting out the stock that I actually have here before we go. So, does someone else mind taking over the chatty talkiness part of it? You might get to talk to someone else. Does anyone else want to talk about chainmail? Not really? Because I need to go sort stock out because
Yeah.
Cal needs to close at 4.
Right.
Um,
Well, shall we call it quits early?
Please don't scream at the computer too much. I'm sorry to deprive you of our interestingness. But me sorting out stock is not going to be that much fun. And we will be doing this again in 2 weeks' time. If you have anything that you want to talk about at the next one, let me know. Because I'm pretty much happy to prattle about anything. Just having a little bit of wanting to do research before being asked complicated armoring questions would be nice. And yeah, we're going to be doing this quite a lot. If we're in your region next time, please come along and say hi. The Tauranga MonkeySpace that we do has 3D printers as well, which is super fun. And yeah, it's basically just a catch up where chainmail also happens to be happening.
Okay, we've got to know.
It's nice of you to say. I know you don't mean it, but it's nice of you to say. We will be back. I'm sure you won't die without me. Nobody has so far.
Right. Catch up with you later.
Try and get organized with getting information about the different weeds up in the near future. Everything is going to be pre-splore or post-splore. And that is probably...
One final question.
What's that?
What's your question? That's right. Waiting for the question to come through. Now it waits an hour for the video to finish.
So I used to do with Dr. Sketchy. They do sketch offs. So Dr. Sketchy was a life drawing class I used to go to up in Auckland. It's awesome. It's run by models and burlesque dancers, and instead of having naked people, they have comic book characters. It's one of the ways that I first met Jeremy. So they did Tank Girl, and they did Catwoman, and they did all sorts of people. They've done a Game of Thrones one. They've done
Go screw yourself.
you too. But when they did a draw-off, when they had two,
Jeez.
they did a competition thing where you had to draw the model, and then you had to draw what they were fighting or what they were eating or something like that. And if there was if they couldn't decide between two pictures, they'd have to do a sketch off. So you'd have like 20 seconds to sketch the other person that was sketching the sketch off, and then the audience would decide. And every time they did it, they sang the Mission Impossible thing. So thanks, Nat. Thanks, Lita. Now it's stuck in my head forever, and that's what I do when I'm writing for things. What is the question? Apart from me going and screwing myself.
No, not you. How does Chain react to a sword's blood groove?
Owen, would you like to take this one?
No, that's why my response was what it was.
Now you get
And,
the pleasure of
actually, no,
watching-
hang on. Wait.
Yeah?
Chain works amazingly well against the sword's blood groove because the sword doesn't have a blood groove. They don't exist. The blood groove doesn't exist. It's just not a thing. So
Owen, would you like to come explain why the blood groove is not a thing?
No, that's
Because
okay.
not a thing that
I don't need to prove that something doesn't exist. It's fine.
Now, I don't know who asked that question, so it may be someone that knows Owen and just wanted to see his brain explode, in which case, thanks, I'm going to have to deal with that conversation in the car all the way back down to Tauranga.
I know who it is.
Yeah, what is the correct name for a blood groove? Owen?
Fuller.
It is a fuller, and it is not for the blood to escape through.
It's for lightening and strengthening the blade.
Yes. Congratulations, whoever asked that question. You really should be able to see Owen's face. Next time I will try and direct the camera.
My question has hit its mark. Yeah, thanks, man.
I knew it. Okay.
Next time you're training, I'll get you.
Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time. I think that I'm getting slightly less incoherent every time I do this. And
We're getting better with
at
it.
least making sense and being vaguely interesting. Because, vaguely interesting is the most that we can do.
And we now know we're able to get involved and do it.
Yeah. So
Right.
last time we
we
couldn't
tried.
actually respond to comments or answer comments while we were still streaming. So we're getting better. The technology's improving, and so are we. But yeah. Thanks, guys. It's good to see you.
Bye.
Yeah. You gonna come back to back?